Welcome to my review of episode 5 of The Last of Us. So I'm still not really sure what I think of this episode. I enjoyed it as a whole and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I loved the swarm of infected and the action sequence at the end, and since we are already at the midway of the season, I knew they'd have to have something big happen this episode, at least action-wise. So seeing all those infected climb out of the sinkhole and start attacking people, and also that bloater ripping people apart, that was very cool and very fun to watch. So I enjoyed all of that. However, there were some aspects to the episode that I found quite frustrating, and I'm not sure if it's just me, so please let me know if you agree. They're not huge plot points or anything, but more like small touches and creative decisions made that I wasn't too sure about. And it's mainly just to do with the characters' actions and how the characters were portrayed this episode, namely Sam and Henry. I think Joel and Ellie were fantastic this episode. I don't have any complaints about them. It was very fun watching Ellie struggle through the infected attack and Joel shooting down the infected with the sniper rifle as she was moving around. And it was also really great seeing Ellie interact with Sam, and as she's the older kid, taking on that more responsible role and having to look after someone. So that was a great character development opportunity for her. So my main comments this week will mainly feature around Sam and Henry. Since I've played the games, I already sort of know the general direction of where the story is heading, and I knew Henry and Sam were going to die and how, so I was already preparing myself for it before watching this episode. But that also means that my reaction wouldn't be the same as someone else who is viewing the story fresh for the first time, and the emotional impact wouldn't be as strong for me. So my comments for this episode are more on the little things rather than the overarching story and the character arcs. I loved the initial opening scenes with Henry and Sam. I think the show did a wonderful job at getting us invested in them very quickly. We get to see their bond as brothers and how Henry cares so much about Sam and takes care of him. That scene in particular where Henry says that they have a problem, and that problem is that their room is really ugly, so he gives Sam some crayons or coloured pencils to draw pictures, was incredibly sweet and touching. Lamar, who is the actor for Henry, does such an amazing job here, and you can really feel the love he has for his brother and the all-encompassing desire or need to protect him. We also learn about Henry's struggle with having to put on the appearance of not being scared in front of Sam and having to project this sort of protective figure so that Sam won't be scared either. And this added another layer to Henry, which was really great. So they did a really, really great job here at establishing Henry as a character. However, one thing that the show changed about Henry from the video game is that Henry isn't really a fighter. He's not violent, hasn't shot a gun before, hasn't killed anyone, with his own hands at least, and that's completely fine. In fact, I actually really liked that moment when he and Sam snuck up on Joel and Ellie when they were sleeping, and then when Henry is pointing a gun at them, though later he admits it was unloaded. He's doing a terrible job at threatening them and even says he's got no idea what he's doing. So that was a very funny and endearing moment and made me really like Henry. But later, when Kathleen's group have cornered him, Sam and Ellie, the way he behaved was really frustrating. For example, when they're being mowed down by that huge truck and Joel manages to shoot the driver with his sniper rifle so the truck crashes into a house and causes a huge fire, Henry goes out to help Ellie, which was a really great character moment for him, but that was like his only useful moment. And he just takes her to their hiding spot where Sam is, behind the cars. When I was watching, I was thinking, why not try and run away, or run further at least, and hide behind cars that are further away, while Kathleen and the others are distracted? Like, I understand that they needed to be trapped behind the car for story tension and so that Kathleen can corner them and then make Henry come out of his hiding place. But they could have at least shown Henry making an attempt to get Ellie and Sam to safety, rather than them all just cowering behind the nearest car. It just didn't make any sense to me and made Henry appear really incompetent. Another moment when Henry is not acting like he should be is when the infected swarm emerges and starts attacking everyone. And then Henry and Sam go to hide underneath a car. And then that leads to Henry having to call for help. And then that leads to them being trapped and then infected trying to attack them. So Henry calls out for help and Ellie comes to save them by stabbing the two infected that are trying to grab at them. And this is also when Sam gets bitten, which leads to Sam turning into an infected and ultimately both of them dying at the end of the episode. And given Henry's entire purpose for living is Sam and protecting him, I just feel like they didn't do a very good job of showing Henry being capable at this, in a practical sense at least. Like, why didn't they try to run away instead of getting trapped hiding under a car? Or maybe they did try and get away, but there was just too many of the infected and they were forced to go underneath the car. But this was never shown on screen because the camera was just focused on Ellie and Joel the whole time. And that's sort of what makes Henry come off as quite useless and incompetent, and he's just reduced to calling out for help, and he's unable to do anything himself to save Sam. So the only real win or heroic character moment he had that was shown on screen at least was when he went to save Ellie right after the building catches on fire. So that was just a little pet peeve I had about their portrayal of Henry and while I was watching the episode. Though I will say that I liked what they did with his character's story and the emotional journey he had, like having to betray the leader of the resistance and someone that he really admired in order to get the medicine to save his brother. It was just more the practical stuff that I didn't like so much. I just found it a little frustrating and even disempowering for Henry as a character when he wasn't shown trying his best to save Sam at the climax of this episode. Because we all know that Henry is capable, he is smart, he's resourceful, and he does what he needs to do for Sam's sake. In terms of Sam, in the video games, he's 13, so for the show, they aged him down to 8, and he's also deaf. I really liked Keivonn Woodard's portrayal of Sam. He's also deaf, so I love that they got him to play this role for the show. He was just very pure and sweet, and whenever he comes on screen, you just get this urge to hug and protect him. But I think in making Sam so much younger and also deaf, this makes Sam feel more at a distance from the audience, because now he just comes off as a vulnerable child who needs protection. I know they did this to benefit Henry's storyline and make the emotional stakes for him higher, because now he really needs to be a strong protector for Sam. However, I think this also took away Sam's autonomy as a character. So in the game, through Sam's dialogue and interactions, we learn about his personality, where his headspace is at, and we get to know Sam a lot more. But in the show, Sam can only really talk to his brother, though he also does talk to Ellie through his notebook. Like, it would be different if Sam were the protagonist of the series, but because he's only a side character, and basically he's only in the show for one episode, they weren't really able to focus on him as a character or give him any growth or development or an emotional arc. And that's nothing to do with the actor's portrayal of Sam, because he does such a great job with the few scenes and moments that he has, but I just would have loved to be able to spend more time with Sam. As it is now, he felt more like a plot device for Henry and Ellie's story and character development. And so, because I felt more at a distance from Sam and felt like I never really knew what he was thinking, I didn't understand why he didn't tell Henry that he had been bitten. And as the audience, that's really important for me to know, because not understanding Sam's perspective and decision not to tell his brother sort of reduced the impact of the ending of this episode for me, because when I was watching the scene play out, I just felt upset and even angry at Sam on Henry's behalf for not telling him. Because after everything Henry's done, surely Sam would know, even though he's only 8 years old, surely he would know how much his brother loves him and that he'd do anything for him. So naturally, wouldn't Sam be worried about Henry after he's dead, and wouldn't he want to reassure his brother? Or maybe he just thought that Ellie's blood was truly medicine and that he wouldn't turn into one of the infected. I suppose it's still an improvement from the game because in the game, Sam doesn't tell anyone and it turns into a sort of nasty as well as devastating surprise for everyone. And I remember when I was playing the game, I was annoyed at Sam for not telling anyone because that put everyone in danger and I thought that was a little selfish of him. So I'm glad that they at least had him tell Ellie in the show. But for me, I still just felt a bit dissatisfied or frustrated because if Sam had told Henry that he had been bitten, then Henry wouldn't have had to find out in such an awful way. Maybe he would have still killed himself the way Bill wanted to die with Frank, but at least Henry would have gotten more time to process and he and Sam would have been able to spend their last moments together, rather than Henry being kept in the dark and being forced to kill Sam like that. I mean, I like that it's poetic and heartbreaking that Henry did kill Sam and then himself, but I just didn't like Sam not telling Henry. I think it just felt like a betrayal of sibling love or something like that. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on Henry and Sam, and I'm pretty sure I might be the only one who thinks this about them. And I tend to like to pull apart character motivations and actions and what I think could have been improved on, but that's just part of the fun of watching something so great. Like, despite my little nitpicks here and there, I'm still really, really loving this series. It's actually quite rare for me to enjoy a show so much and be excited the day each episode comes out every week, so I'll be quite sad once season 1 is over. I think this show is one of the most well-written, well-directed, well-acted, and just overall well-made shows of all time, or that I've seen at least. So what did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments below, like the video if you did, and subscribe if you want to hear more. I'll catch you later.